Good afternoon and welcome to Fort Lee for today's matchup between the visiting Westwood Cardinals and your Fort Lee Bridgemen. Today's contest is being conducted according to the rules of the New Jersey State High School Athletic Association. These rules provide for fair competition among players. Spectators can help promote good sportsmanship by observing the rules of fair play. Any verbal, written, or physical conduct related to race, gender, ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, or religion shall not be tolerated. This could subject the violator to ejection and may result in penalties being assessed against your team. Each one is requested to take personal responsibility for keeping this competition at a high level of good sportsmanship. And now for today's starting lineups. First, for the visiting Westwood Cardinals. Number 3, Victoria Eichler. Number 15, Fiona Doyle. Number 23, Gabriela Tavares. Number 24, Karen Cashler. And number 25, Kate Walsh. Head coach, Charles Collins. And now, the starting lineup for your Fort Lee Bridgemen. Number 1, Layla Jones. Number 2, Janelle Lewis. Number 12, Ellis Evazoglu. Number 22, Sophia Pagan. And number 23, Olivia Hossman. Head coach, Kelly Lane. At this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as we honor America with the playing of our national anthem. Let's play ball.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome here inside East Gymnasium at Fort Lee High School for today's Big North Conference Showdown between the visiting Cardinals of Westwood and your Fort Lee Bridgemen. Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Long, joined alongside by Renee Matisich and Dimitri Nanis. So glad you could join us here on our broadcast coverage of Fort Lee girls basketball. Westwood comes into today's game 1-0 on the season, while Fort Lee is 0-1, looking for their first win of this brand new 2022-23 regular season. Westwood comes in after a 60-24 win against Dumont at home on December 15th. They're led by their head coach, Charles Collins, who has 207 career victories at the helm of the Cardinal program. Fort Lee is led by first-year head coach Kelly Lane. The Bridgemen lost their season opener here at East Gym on December 15th, 68-58 against Tenafly. Westwood will be in the road black with the red numerals outlined in white. In the all-white home uniforms will be the Bridgemen of Fort Lee. And the opening tip is secured by Westwood. Fort Lee is looking for their first win against the Cardinals since the 2011-2012 season, trying to snap a 13-game skid against the Cardinals here today. As they move it around inside the corner, good ball movement. Here's a foul line jumper, no good that time, by Gabriela Tavares. And a rebound and pushing it the other way with a Euro step, and that's going to be an offensive foul whistled against Fort Lee. Janelle Lewis, the senior guard, picking up her first personal foul, team's first. Lewis coming off a 19-point performance in her Fort Lee debut against Tenafly in the season opener on December 15th. 19 points, 4 made three-pointers in the course of that win for the Bridgemen. As the officials trying to talk things over now with Coach Collis in front of the Fort Lee sideline, as well as with head coach Kelly Lane. Again, we don't know what the discussion is right now, as Kelly Lane will go back to her sideline. So, foul again against Lewis, her first, team's first for Fort Lee. As we're going to get back to the course of play, 7:36 left to go in a scoreless beginning of this first quarter. Glad that you could join us here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. That cross-court pass going a little too long. That's going to end as a turnover for Westwood. This game starting about 20 minutes later than expected because of the JV game preceding it, going a little longer in duration. So tipped off at around 12:20 rather than a noontime start. So now Lewis will run the point guard duties. Getting over to Sophia Pagan. The senior was the leading scorer for Fort Lee a season ago, gets called for the travel. And that's going to be a turnover and possession going over to Westwood. Working around the perimeter now up top to Tavares. Now back up top. A shot from up top, and a three ball is knocked down by Westwood. Kate Walsh, who leads the team with 16 points a game this season, knocks down the triple. 3-0 lead for Westwood. Hausman getting into the high post to Ava Zoglu. Now up top, here's Layla Jones. Jones, 20 points against Tenafly in the season opener. Now Lewis, high dribble, hands it off to Jones. Jones beats by her first defender and banks it in for the first bucket of the day for Fort Lee. For Layla Jones, the senior guard. Again, Westwood working around the perimeter. Trying to bounce it down in low. Here's a shot from the corner. That shot no good. Rebounded inside. Kicked out by Victoria Eichler. Around the perimeter, Sky Archer, no good. Again, offensive rebound inside for Westwood. A third opportunity in this possession. Now a fourth opportunity. And using the size advantage inside, Westwood with 3 different offensive rebounds and eventually draw the contact in the foul against Fort Lee. That'll send Kate Walsh, the junior, to the line, shooting 2. And Walsh will rattle in the first made foul shot of the game for either team. Walsh with all 4 of Westwood's points. They lead 4-2 with 5:52 left to go here in the first. Walsh had 16 points against Dumont a season ago. Walsh averaged 10 points per game and also 5 rebounds. Good power move across the middle. The shot left short, though, by Lewis. The follow-up by Pagan hits the back of the backboard, and that's going to be a violation. Possession going back over now to Westwood. Westwood a season ago, fans, went 17-10. Advanced to the North 1 Group 2 sectional semifinals before losing to Jefferson High School 51-43. Moving around the perimeter, Tavares cutting through the host of defenders, but took an extra step in the process. That's going to be a turnover, so good defense for both teams early on in this contest. 5:28 left to go in the first, 5-2 lead for Westwood. Jones. The teardrop finish inside the lane. Layla Jones now with both of Fort Lee's made baskets. She's got 4. Lead is down to 1 for Westwood. And that's going to be another travel on the play. Great positional defense inside by Fort Lee, forcing Eichler to take an extra step. So now Fort Lee with a chance here to take their first lead of the ball game. Down by 1. 3 minutes gone by here in the first quarter. Hausman a little off balance, left it behind. Teammate still secures possession. Jones getting it back up top to Lewis. Lewis trying to feed it inside to Pagan. Pagan trying to carve out some space in the interior. Turnaround shot, no good. Rebounded inside by Walsh. And now a double dribble violation against Westwood, so things getting a little sloppy on the offensive side of the court for Westwood. 3 consecutive turnovers for the Cardinals. Back-to-back travels as well as a double dribble. 5-4 lead for Westwood. Second home game of the season for Fort Lee. Worked around the perimeter. Here's a long-range 3 ball. No good by Jones. Pagan crashes the offensive glass. Give and go inside to Hausman. Reverse layup is good. The assist to Sophia Pagan and Olivia Hausman, the junior, getting her first basket. And now an and one the other way for Westwood. Will give Walsh and the Cardinals back the lead. Kate Walsh now with all 7 of Westwood's points in this early going. Walsh rattles in the made foul shot. She's got 8. 3 for 3 from the foul line early goings. So number 25 in black and red doing the job. 8-6 lead for Westwood after Fort Lee had momentarily taken their first lead of the ball game. Ivizoglu looking for an outlet, finds it into the hands of Layla Jones. There's a 3 ball knocked down by Jones. Off the assist from Janelle Lewis. Jones now with 7 of Fort Lee's 9 points. Bridgman back in top. Shot off the mark there by Gashler. Fort Lee just able to save it. Hausman keeps it in play. 3.5 minutes left to go in the first quarter. Across the middle, dribble and drive. Ivizoglu, a little too hot to handle. Jones recovers. Now Lewis getting bumped on the baseline, draws the contact and the foul, as that foul will go against Westwood, stopping the clock with 3:23 left to go in the first quarter, and a 9-8 lead for Fort Lee. Hausman will look for the inbound. Ivizoglu back to Hausman, 3-point specialist. Looking for a little space, hands it off instead to Jones. Jones being watched by Eichler. Outlets at a long-range 3 from the near side by Lewis. Rattled in and out. Pagan again with the hustle play. Gets it inside to Jones. Jones misses. Rebounded underneath by Walsh. Westwood trying to bring it down the floor in transition. Good recovery defense, though, by Kelly Lanes-Bridgman. 9-8 lead for Fort Lee. Walsh has all 8 points for Westwood in the first quarter. Across the lane, that shot left short by Gashler. Offensive rebound, though, by Eichler. Across the lane, stood up, and a traveling call, another violation against Westwood. Fort Lee's defense has been great so far here in the first quarter, leading to countless number of turnovers by the Cardinals. 2:25 and counting left to go in the first. And now an offensive foul is going to be whistled against Fort Lee, as it looks like it's going to be Olivia Hausman. Fort Lee committing 4 fouls to only 1 so far in this game for Westwood. 2:20 and counting now left to go in the first. 9-8 lead still here for Fort Lee. They're in the white, Westwood in the black and red. And a running shot banked in off the glass by Aaron Gashler, the sophomore. Gashler coming off an 11-point performance against Dumont, and that time Jones's floater didn't fall. Westwood in the open floor. Walsh being contended with, and a foul whistled once again. Draped along the back, and a hold, officially the call against Fort Lee. 5th team foul against the Bridgemen here in the first. Foul starting to pile up for Fort Lee. Get it up top to Fiona Doyle. Cross the lane. That shot missed. Hausman muscles her way for the rebound. It's going to be a jump ball. Possession arrow will favor the Bridgemen. So possession will be back over to Fort Lee with 1:48 left to go here in our first quarter of action. 10-9 the lead for Westwood. Fort Lee being led by the 7 points of Layla Jones. She's got 7 of Fort Lee's 9 points. Here's Sophia Pagan taking her defender off the dribble. Dumping it off down low to Roxanne Perez, who's just come into the game. Perez turns it over though. Walsh looking to run, pushes it up the floor, up and under move. Good hesitation move, and Victoria Eichler lays it in. Points off the turnover, 12-9 lead for Westwood. Coming up on 1:15 remaining here in the first. Lewis looking for his first points, and she gets it. The and one splits the double team and has a chance at a 3-point play. And with a made foul shot, has a chance to level the score at 12-12. Lewis with a nifty up and under move. Foul shot is pure. Lewis completes the 3-point play. She's got 3 in the game, and it's now 12-12 as we come up on the final minute of the first quarter of play. Eichler feeding inside, contact, clean block. Follow-up attempt, though, is a foul whistled against Fort Lee. And again, the Bridgemen have been fouling at a high clip so far here in the first quarter, already up to 6 team fouls. As Westwood will knock down the made foul shot. Second foul shot, no good. Now trying to push it the other way, and that pass a little too high of the mark. That'll go out of bounds for a turnover for Fort Lee as they were trying to attack quickly in transition. Westwood back with the possession. 13-12 lead for Westwood, 54.2 seconds remaining in quarter number 1. Gashler, taking her defender 1v1. She gets it swatted away out of bounds. Good defense there by Sophia Pagan, denying entry inside the lane. 46.6 seconds left to go in the first. Westwood with the inbound and a 1-point lead. Up top to Aaron Gashler. Walsh spinning on her defender, but it gets her pocket picked by Lewis. Lewis trying to go coast to coast, lays it up and in. Janelle Lewis. 5 straight points for Fort Lee, and the Bridgemen are back on top, 14-13. 25 seconds left to go in the quarter. Baseline jumper, rattled in, and good for Westwood. Cardinals back on top. Both teams trading the lead. 15-14. Westwood leads. 8 seconds and counting left to go in the first quarter. Pagan looking up top for Lewis. 3 on the clock. Lewis pulls up from deep. No good. And rebounded by Westwood. And that will end an entertaining first quarter with Westwood leading Fort Lee 15-14. Stick around. We'll be back right after this as you're watching Fort Lee girls basketball on the Fort Lee YouTube channel. A fun start to this game as Westwood on top of Fort Lee by a score of 15-14. Both teams trading the lead throughout the course of that first quarter of play. Dan Long, Dimitri Nanis, Renee Matisic, glad that he could join us here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel, as we'll be your broadcast home for all home sporting events here inside East Gymnasium this winter season. Brought you the sights and sounds of the boys wrestling match last night here. Today, girls basketball. Next week, we'll debut our coverage of the boys basketball season as well. Westwood in the road black, in the home white, the Bridgemen of Fort Lee. Good move off the screen, but missed the layup inside. Westwood drew up a perfect inbounds pass for Kate Walsh, and Walsh just could not convert. Last touch off of Fort Lee, though, so possession will stay here on this side of the floor for Westwood. Pagan nearly drew a 5-second call. Doyle outlets it over to Walsh. Walsh takes Pagan off the dribble. Good active hands again, this time by Layla Jones. They get it down the floor to Jones. Jones had 7 points in the first quarter. Pull back three, got it! Layla Jones with a three ball, her second made three of the game. Fort Lee back on top 17-15. That shot left short inside, but again, Westwood using their height advantage inside and crash the offensive glass. That has been keeping possessions alive for the Cardinal. Now Juliana Batelli, number 20, will head to the line to shoot two. Westwood pulls back to within one. It's 17-16 with 7:19 left to go here until halftime. That shot also goes up and in, hitting all the rim and falling. Batelli goes 2 for 2 at the line. We're tied up 17-17. Less than a minute into the second quarter. Another nice penetrating move, this time by Janelle Lewis. Lewis has 7. And now Sophia Pagan just got called for the reach-in foul against Doyle. 7th team foul already here, less than a minute into the start of the second quarter. So it's going to be foul shots the rest of the first half here for Westwood. As Fiona Doyle, the junior, will head to the foul line to shoot 1-1. Doyle missing on that foul shot, rebounded inside by Fort Lee. Nice feed inside as they were trying to find Nadia Sango. Sango recovers it. Up top now to Jones. Jones give and go inside of Sango. Sango a little too strong in the layup attempt to the near side. Now Westwood breaking through the contain. Here's Walsh, good crossover, goes coast to coast. She left the layup short. Foul attempt inside, and once again, a foul whistled against Fort Lee, and once again, Fort Lee having their issues trying to keep Westwood off the offensive glass. Juliana Batelli will head to the foul line. It'll be a 2-shot foul. First foul shot is good. Batelli has come into this game and has knocked down 3 consecutive foul shots off the bench. Batelli had 4 points in their season-opening win against Dumont. Batelli now misses her first. Nearly another offensive rebound for Westwood. Start and stop dribble. Shot left short. Ava Zoglu, offensive rebound. Hausman for 3. In and out. Rebounded underneath. As Westwood looks to push it down the floor. Fort Lee leads 19-18. 6:10 left to go in the second quarter. Doyle being watched closely by Jones. Walsh trying to back down Hausman. And that's going to be 3-second call. Camped out in the lane, Westwood having a player underneath. Another turnover forced by this active Fort Lee defense. There's going to be a timeout on the floor. 5:57 left to go here in the second quarter of play. Fort Lee holding on to a 19-18 advantage over Westwood. Fort Lee coming off a 68-58 loss on Thursday in their season opener here at home against Tenafly. A season ago, fans, the Bridgemen went 10-12 overall and lost the Summit in the opening round of the North 2 Group 3 sectional playoffs. Fort Lee also finished a season ago second place in the Big North American Division, going 5-3 behind league champions Dumont. And while Fort Lee has opened up their season, their first 2 games here at home, they'll have to get used to being on the road in their next couple of games. Fort Lee will see themselves play 5 of their next 6 games away from East Gymnasium, including their next game will be on December 20th on the road at Mahwah. So out of the timeout, it's going to be possession on offense here for Fort Lee. Layla Jones, who has 10 of Fort Lee's 19 points, passing it over to Janelle Lewis. Lewis and Jones, who are new to the program this year, have been dynamic in the start of this season. They combined for 39 points in the opener already here today, have combined for 17 of the team's 19. Walsh is in the near corner. Up top now to Doyle. Cross court to Walsh. Walsh had a huge first quarter, had 8 of her points. That 3 ball, no good. Rebound inside yet again by Westwood. Ball caroms out in space again. Another follow-up attempt, and this time the hook shot finish. Greta Gashler with their first 2 points of the game. Westwood back in front, 20-19. 3 minutes gone by here in the second quarter. Hand off to Jones. Jones, foul line jumper, and she kisses it in off the glass. Layla Jones now up to 12 points in the game, as the bank was open here on a Saturday. 21-20. Fort Lee back with a lead. Good ball movement leads to an open 3, no good. Rebound, and again, Westwood just using that height advantage to full effect. Fort Lee's got to find a body and box out a little better here. A lot of extra possessions on offense for Westwood. Another 3, no good. This time it comes out of space. Trying to bring it out, but Jones gets stripped to the ball. Westwood the other way for the layup by Gabriela Tavares. Her first 2 points of the game. Westwood back on top, 22-21. Jones dribbling a little too much, nearly lost the dribble. Hands it off now to Lewis. Lewis cut down the lane, kick out, here's the 3 ball, got it! Hausman knocks down the triple. Olivia Hausman, who had 3 made threes in the season opener, knocks down her first made 3 of this game. Fort Lee back in front by 2, 24-22. 3:45 remaining here in the second quarter. Missed shot, follow-up attempt inside, another miss, another offensive rebound. Here's a corner 3, Westwood makes Fort Lee pay. Walsh with the 3-point shot, 25-24. Westwood back in front. Kate Walsh with 11 points, the leading scorer for Westwood. Across the lane, blocking foul, and count the bucket. So the foul whistled against Westwood. Count the basket. As Janelle Lewis, now with 9 points in this game, has a chance at a 3-point play as well. Once again, the lead shifts back to Fort Lee with a main basket. 26-25 Bridgman. Foul shot left short that time by Lewis. 1 of 2 at the line here in this game. 26-25, Bridgman on top. And that's going to be a jump ball. That's a clean block, and possession will go over to Fort Lee. Good job there of that interior presence with 3:14 remaining here until halftime. Jones cuts across the lane, try to leave it off for Sango. She left the shot short, I should say. Pass inside, weaving inside, missing on the shot, tipped out after Aaron Gashler's shot was off the mark. Good recovery defense by Westwood. Here's the floater inside. That shot went halfway down, but rimmed out. Doyle now with the possession. 2:40 left to go in the second quarter. Walsh in the open floor. Up top to Doyle, working around the perimeter. Now Westwood trying to recapture the lead. Good ball movement leads to an open shot, rimmed in and out by Walsh. Cutting across the middle, and that's going to be a travel, negating what would have been the made layup for Lewis. A timeout is going to be taken with 2:10 remaining here in a hotly contested first half of play. Fort Lee will lead 26-25. Stick around. We'll be right back here after this timeout. This has been a fun one so far in this first half. Fort Lee leading Westwood by a score of 26-25. Westwood led 15-14 after the first quarter of play. Both teams have been trading lead throughout the majority of this first half. Doyle curling around, trying to get it up top. Tavares. Back up top to Doyle. Patiently working against this zone defense, and that's an air ball shot. A high arcing shot at that. As that goes out of bounds, but possession will stay here. The story so far in this game has been the second, third, and even fourth opportunities on offensive possessions for Westwood. The defense has been great for Fort Lee. The problem is their rebounding has been very poor so far. Westwood with double-digit offensive rebounds in the first half. Kept this possession going, and that eventually leads to the three. Westwood back in front after the Aaron Gashler three ball. Gashler with 5 points here in the first half. Hausman looks to answer, and does! Olivia Hausman tickles the twine, her second three-pointer of the first half. Hausman with 8. Fort Lee back in front, 29-28 as we come up on the final minute of the first half. Worked around the perimeter. Three balls are falling now for both sides. Hesitation move, and banked in for the layup. Westwood takes back the lead. 29 points for Fort Lee, 30 for Westwood. 45 seconds left to go in the first half. Lewis handing it off to Jones. Jones, as the sea parts, draws the contact on her way up, and that'll send Layla Jones to the line to shoot two with 37.7 seconds left to go here before halftime. And Jones with a chance to once again potentially give Fort Lee back the lead as they trail by 1. Jones missing on the first foul shot, so Westwood will still remain in the lead by 1 with 37.7 seconds left to go. Haley So, the junior, will come into the game for the first time for the Bridgemen. Jones goes 1 of 2 at the line. She's now got a game-high 13 for Fort Lee. 30-30 the score as we're coming up on the final 30 seconds of the first half of play. Been a fun one here in East Gym. That shot hit the bottom of the rim. Now possession and a chance here for Fort Lee. They'll look to push it down low. So had an opportunity, thought better of it. Now Fort Lee will pull it out. We'll see if Kelly Lane will elect to have her Bridgman settle for one final possession of the first half. A tie score, 10 seconds left. It looks like Fort Lee's playing for one final shot. Janelle Lewis. Lewis crossing over defender, splits the double team. Ball left behind, no call as we'll play on, and that's going to be the way that the first half ends. A lot of contact between players on both sides and no foul call on the play. Westwood charged with only 4 fouls in that first half, while Fort Lee was whistled for 9 fouls. So we will head into halftime with a tie score, 30-30 here. Stick around, fans, as we'll be back for the start of the exciting second half of play, as you're watching Westwood take on Fort Lee in girls basketball action here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Welcome back, everybody, inside East Gymnasium here at Fort Lee High School, where we are tied at the end of the first half, 30-30 between Westwood and Fort Lee. Taking a look at some of the stats from the first half of play, Westwood is being led by Kate Walsh's 11 first half points. She scored 8 of her 11 points in that first quarter alone. Fort Lee is being led by Layla Jones's game-high 13 points. Right behind her, Janelle Lewis chipped in 9 points for the Bridgemen, and Olivia Hausman also added 8 points. Westwood led 15 of 14 after the first quarter of play. Fort Lee outscored Westwood 16-15 in that second quarter to level the score at 30-30 as we head to the start of the third quarter of play. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in and supporting these fine student athletes from both schools as we're getting right to the start of the second game of the season. Again, Westwood already defeated a big North American Division opponent in Dumont at home, 60-24 in their season opener. They will actually take on 3 straight big North American Division teams to begin their season after playing at Fort Lee here today. Next week, they'll be traveling back home to host Cliffside Park before then traveling to Lakeland on December 22nd. Fort Lee will travel to Mamwang for their first road game on the 20th and then be back here to take on Bloomfield on the 22nd at 4 p.m., a game that you'll be able to watch live and also on demand, and the best part for free, courtesy of the Fort Lee Athletic Department. I'm Dan Long, joined alongside by my producer, Dimitri Nanis, and our camera operator, Renee Matisich. So glad you could join us. Fort Lee in the white, Westwood in the black. Westwood forces a turnover to start the second half, but then they turn it over themselves with a double dribble call against Tavares. Westwood has been in this game because of their propensity on the offensive glass. Offensive rebounds have been a problem for Fort Lee defensively in the first half. Jones and Lewis have been a dynamic duo yet again. They scored 39 combined points in their last game. And what a nice move there, again, by Janelle Lewis. Picking up right where she left off in the first half, Lewis now with 11 points. Number 2 in white has been explosive and aggressive in taking it right down the middle of the lane. Fort Lee extends their lead now to 2, 32-30. Bridgman playing in a 2-3 zone. Cross-court pass, good hesitation dribble, pull-up jumper on the baseline is good. Outstanding move there by Erin Gashler. Gashler was 7 points here in the game. Let her defender fly by her and then had the mid-range jumper. Over to the near side goes Hausman. Hausman getting it up top to Lewis. Here's a corner 3 ball by Pagan, no good. Rebounded inside by Westwood as Erin Gashler looks to push. The sophomore gets fouled in transition, and fouls were also another concern for Coach Kelly Lane and Fort Lee in that first half. They fouled at a high clip. They had 9 team fouls, while Westwood only committed 4 combined fouls in that first half. They're going to say that was a foul in the act of shooting. Both officials confirm with one another. They're going to say in the act of shooting. So it's now going to be a foul shot opportunity for Erin Gashler. Gashler had 11 points in her season opener against Dumont. Averaged only 2.8 points per game last year. As that foul shot falls for Erin Gashler, she's got the first 3 points of the second half for Westwood. She's got 8 points in this game. Gashler's second foul shot is short, but the rebound comes right back to Gashler, and she forces the contact, and the hustle play goes right to her. That time, Layla Jones was the person responsible for boxing out the shooter. She vacated her position, and the ball just caromed right back to her. And she took it right to the hoop and drew the contact again. 2 fouls now against Fort Lee in the start of the second half. As Gashler will knock in that foul shot, she's now 2 of 3 from the line. Gashler up to 9 points in the game. Second foul shot is also good for Gashler, so she cashes in on that possession, knocking down 3 of her 4 foul shots. Shot from deep is short, rebounded out. Now Gashler pushing it down the other way, pull-up jumper, left short by Westwood. Caromed out to space, Doyle tracks it down. Doyle feeds inside, and that layup attempt, no good. Skying high is Lewis for the rebound. Lewis trying to go coast to coast with a finger roll, left it short, a lot of contact, no call. Doyle passing inside to Walsh. Walsh's pass intercepted by Lewis. Lewis tracking it down the other way. Lewis crossing it over. Step back 3. Got it! What a nice play there by Janelle Lewis. She was denied entry last time on her layup attempt. Step back for the 3 and knocks it down. Lewis with all 5 points here in the third quarter for Fort Lee. She's now got a game-high 14 for the Bridgemen. And the score once again is even, this time at 35-35. 5:31 left to go here in the third quarter of play. Westwood inbounds it up top to Aaron Gashler. Corner 3 ball in front of their bench, no good. Jones with the board. Jones in the open floor, cutting through. Tried to avoid the contact. Missed the layup on the left-hand side. Gashler not being stopped, goes straight at Pagan. Misses the layup, fights for the rebound against her own teammate. Gashler missing the layup. That's tipped out of bounds. Last touch off of Eichler. And possession will go back over to Fort Lee. As Haley So comes into the game. Coach Kelly Lane is desperately looking for an answer defensively inside to help clean up the deficiency on the glass. Hoping that Haley So, the junior, will help do the job down low. That outlet pass is intercepted. A turnover forced by Westwood. The Cardinals almost got the pocket picked as well. Here's Walsh from distance. No good. Rebound again inside. Aaron Gashler will lay it up and in. 12 points in the game for Gashler. She's got 7 points in this third quarter alone. Westwood back in front, 37-35. Pagan losing control. Ball is loose. Westwood wins the possession, and a blocking foul now whistled against Jones. Jones fixing her sneaker as she'll tie both sneakers up tighter. Third team foul against Fort Lee already in the second half. No fouls committed by Westwood. 4:25 remaining here in the third quarter. 37-35 the lead for the Westwood Cardinals, trying to go to 2-0 in the start of their season. Finished tied for second place in the Big North Patriot Division a season ago with a 5-3 league record, finishing behind eventual league champions Riverdale. Inside, nice strong move there, decisive move by Kate Walsh. Walsh with her first basket of the second half. She's got 13. Lead grows to 4, 39-35. Now a reach-in foul charge against Westwood, and the Cardinals will be whistled for their first foul of the second half. Fort Lee trying to cut into that 4-point deficit as we reach the midway points of the third quarter. 4 minutes and counting left to go. On the near baseline, floater shot by Pagan is left short. Wrestled inside for the rebound, and over the back foul called against Pagan and Fort Lee. Fourth team foul against Fort Lee as that personal went against Sophia Pagan. Gashler outletting it to the far side. High arcing 3 is knocked down by Gabriela Tavares. Largest lead of the game now for Westwood is 7. Nice give and go, and Pagan is fouled on her way up. Great court vision there by Layla Jones, finding her teammate wide open on the diagonal block. And now Sophia Pagan with a chance to strike gold from the charity stripe. Stopping the clock with 3:31 left to go here in the third quarter. Pagan knocks down the first made foul shot, her first point of the game. Sophia Pagan, who was the team's leading scorer a season ago. Second foul shot is no good. Lewis trying to tip it out. 42-36, Westwood leads. Good ball movement there against the zone, leads to an open three, no good. Rebound caroms out to Lewis. Lewis doesn't need to have any message to tell her to keep on going quickly down the other way. And now after the ensuing miss, a foul whistled against Fort Lee. And just like the first half, fouls are piling up against the Bridgemen. Now it's up to 5 fouls here, and it's still 3:11 remaining in the third quarter. Fort Lee trying to play in a 2-3 zone. The problem is that you could rebound against the zone. That leads to a three-point shot attempt by Walsh, no good. Again, another offensive rebound for Westwood. Another three is fired, and this time the rebound is secured by Jones. Nice, nifty behind-the-back dribble. Jones pulls up from distance from three, no good. Rebound again, secured by Fiona Doyle, the junior. It's one undone on one end, and multiple opportunities on this end of the floor. Now, thievery. Lewis picks the pocket, and that's going to be a foul on the open floor against Doyle. A good foul at that, as that was going to be a 2-on-1 developing on the other end of the floor for Fort Lee. Foul whistled on the floor, third team foul against Westwood. Inbound upcoming now for Fort Lee. Hausman waiting for the inbounds. Gets it inside to Perez. Perez back up top to Lewis. 2:30 and counting left to go here in the third quarter. 6-point lead for Westwood. Perez sets the screen, and Lewis fired off the mark. Perez trying to fight for possession inside. It's a loose ball tie-up. Possession arrow will give it over to Westwood. Coach Collis looking for a timeout for Westwood, so they'll take the timeout with 2:20 left to go here in the third quarter of play. Westwood leading Fort Lee by a score of 42-36. We'll be back right out of this timeout as you're watching Fort Lee girls basketball action here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Fort Lee right now being held to only 6 points so far in this quarter, and there's only 2:20 left to go. 5 of the 6 points being connected on by Janelle Lewis. Lewis with a game-high 14 points for Fort Lee. Layla Jones has not scored so far here in the second half. She had 13 at the break. Out of the timeout, Westwood attacking on the baseline, and that time a traveling call, as Erin Gashler lost her balance, might have stepped on a defender's foot as well. That goes over for a turnover, and possession goes back on offense now to Fort Lee. Lewis will run the point guard duties. Over to Hausman, who had 8 points in the first half. Hausman off balance, nearly banked it in. Batelli with the rebound underneath. Again, Westwood dominating in terms of rebounding on both sides of the floor. Fort Lee has not had a lot of opportunities to crash the offensive glass themselves. Westwood working around the perimeter. Tavares to the far side to Doyle. Doyle to a cutting inside, Batelli. Doyle backing up for three, no good. Rebounded by Lewis. Lewis in the open floor, Goes one-on-one and draws the contact. We play on. Clean shot. Lewis does get credit for the basket. She's up to 16 points in the game. Officials letting them play 42-38. Gashler across the middle nearly got stripped of the ball. Elbow jumper, high arcer again. Tavares, nothing but net. 7 points in the game for Tavares. She's got 5 in the third quarter alone. Back to a 6-point lead, 44-38 Westwood. So, sees part for her, takes the open shot, no good. Perez with the offensive board. Inside, Perez muscles her way. Again, fouls her own miss, lays it up and in. Roxanne Perez, the junior, first 2 points of the game. Back to a 4-point deficit for Fort Lee. 44-40 with 35 seconds and counting left to go in the third quarter. Gashler from 3, no good. Perez nearly had it. Tipped out in space by Jones. Jones gets it stripped away. Kelly Lane, incredulous on the Fort Lee sideline why there wasn't a foul called. Leads to another open 3 for Tavares. Doesn't draw iron. That's tipped out of bounds right in front of us. And that'll be last touch off of Batelli and Westwood. Possession going back to Fort Lee. Deficit is 4 points with 16.1 seconds left to go here in the third quarter of action. Janelle Lewis with 7 of Fort Lee's 10 points in the quarter. Lewis will have it right now, being guarded by Doyle. Hausman looking for an outlet to Sow. 4 seconds left to go. Perez underneath, dribbling up a storm, curls around inside, left the shot short. And that'll end the third quarter of action. Westwood will take a 4-point lead with them into the start of the fourth quarter. It's Westwood 44, Fort Lee 40. Stick around as we'll be back for the start of the fourth quarter as you're watching all the action here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Westwood took control in that third quarter, outscoring Fort Lee 14-10. They had put the clamps down defensively on the Bridgman for the majority of that quarter. Fort Lee came alive near the end of the quarter to pull back to within 4. It was tied up at 30-30 at halftime. Westwood led by 1 after 1, 15-14. Largest lead was around 7 in that quarter for Westwood. As we get underway, the start of the fourth quarter of play. Inside to Pagan, hook shot, too long. Erin Gashler is dribbling the ball now. She was the scoring leader in that quarter for Westwood. Her shot no good, but Telly gets fouled on the ensuing offensive rebound and putback attempt. And now it's going to be 16 fouls against Fort Lee. As again, Fort Lee has just not had an answer defensively for the rebound. Batelli and Gashler have been camped out all afternoon long in the lane and getting second and third opportunities. Batelli swishes home the foul shot. All 4 of her points in this game have come at the line. She's 4 for 5 at the foul line here this afternoon. Batelli in and out on that foul shot attempt. And that's going to be last touch off of Fort Lee. So Batelli misses the foul shot. Possession will stay here with Westwood, leading 45-40. 20 seconds into the start of the fourth quarter of play. Dan Long, Renee Matisich, Dimitri Nanis. Glad that you could join us here for this broadcast coverage on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. And that's going to be a foul whistled underneath an offensive foul against Aaron Gatchler. So the sophomore will pick up the foul after pushing off of Layla Jones. How can Fort Lee get number 1 Layla Jones going? She was held scoreless in that third quarter after scoring 13 points in the first half alone. Now a blocking foul. That's going to be an offensive foul against Hausman. So both teams trading offensive fouls in the opening possessions of the fourth quarter. 7:25 and counting left to go in the fourth. 45-40. Westwood leads by 5. Drive and dish, corner 3. Westwood knocks it down. As that was Kate Walsh from 3, 16 points in the game now for Walsh. Shot no good, so crashes the glass. A rare offensive rebound for Fort Lee. Ava Zoglu looking for an outlet. Getting it back up top to Layla Jones. Kelly Lane, the head coach in her first year at Fort Lee, calls for the timeout to talk things over with her side. 6:51 left to go in the fourth quarter. Lead is now grown to 8. Westwood on top of Fort Lee, trying to win for the 14th consecutive meeting in this rivalry. Out of the timeout, it's going to be 48-40. Westwood leading Fort Lee with 6:50 remaining here in regulation in the fourth quarter. Westwood steals the inbounds pass. Gatchler going coast to coast with it. Passes up top to Doyle. Doyle for 3, no good. Rebound inside. Jump ball. Possession arrow will favor Fort Lee. Officials trying to sort things out. Possession arrow was in the direction of Fort Lee. Then the officials were about to overrule it and say possession was going to stay here for Westwood. That was a tie-up that was forced by the freshman guard, Jacqueline Martinez, who's come into the game. Last possession was a timeout on the floor for Fort Lee, so this should be possession arrow for the Bridgemen. .6:39 left to go here in regulation. So again, the officials who had the final say are talking things over with the respective coaches to see who will get possession right now. Is it going to be Westwood, or will possession go over to Fort Lee? And it looks like possession will stay here for Westwood. So Fort Lee is going to have to play a little defense here, down by 8, 6:39 left to go. Time becoming a concern here for the Bridgemen. Pass all the way up top, Patelli watching as Ava Zoglu was in front of her, and a travel call whistled against Westwood. That might have been your usual makeup call, as it looked like it could have been potentially a foul whistled against Ava Zoglu. She was in the area, not allowing Patelli to even move. Possession goes back to the Bridgemen. They need some offense here. Lewis off the cut. She's been the offensive force in the second half. Out of control runner there. And now a tie-up. Possession arrow will stay this way with Fort Lee. 6:19 remaining in a hardly contested game. Cross-divisional showdown here in the Big North Conference. Fort Lee in search of their first win of the season. Westwood trying to go to 2-0. Hausman, a deep three. Off the back iron, no good. Botelli with the rebound inside. Westwood trying to extend their lead to double digits. Here's a three on one side, no good. Lewis has done an exceptional job rebounding from her guard position here. Another loose ball, and she takes it coast to coast for the layup. Janelle Lewis now with a game-high 18 points for Fort Lee. She makes the deficit back to within 6, 48-42. Timeout on the floor by Westwood with 5:54 remaining here in the fourth quarter of play. Fort Lee trying to claw their way back here late in regulation as you're watching all the action here on YouTube. Janelle Lewis, the senior guard for Fort Lee, is now up to 18 points. She had 19 points in the opener against Tenafly. Westwood has done a better job of defending against Layla Jones in this second half. Jones had a game-high 13 points at halftime. She is yet to get on the scoreboard here at the start of the second half. Was scoreless throughout the entire third quarter and is still yet to score here in the beginning of the fourth. She's been mired in foul difficulty as well. 5:54 remaining here in the fourth quarter. Full court pressure being administered by Kelly Lane's Fort Lee Bridgman. Fiona Doyle breaks the pressure. Now gets it over to Tavares to the near side, back to Doyle. Gashler, who has 12 points in the game. Looking to outlet it up top to Tavares. Cutting across the lane was Walsh. She's got a game-high 16 for Westwood. Gashler looking up top for number 25, Kate Walsh. Walsh, who had 16 in their season opener, split the lane, got tripped up inadvertently, and last touch off of Westwood, a turnover for the Cardinals. And that's going to be possession going back over to Fort Lee with 5:24 left to go in the fourth quarter. Lewis looking to the near side. Avazoglu takes her defender off the dribble and lays it in. Ellis Avazoglu, the senior, with her first 2 points of the game. And Fort Lee back to within 4, 48-44. 5 minutes and counting left to go here in the fourth quarter. And it's going to be a holding foul against Fort Lee on the inbounds. That's going to be the 8th team foul against the Bridgman. And a 1-on-1 situation, Westwood shooting for the remainder of this game. They're in the single bonus. 8 team fouls against Fort Lee, 5 team fouls against Westwood. So the Cardinals still have a foul to give before it'll be single bonus for Fort Lee once you reach 7 team fouls. Doyle knocks down the foul shot. Fiona Doyle's first made point of the game. She's 1 of 2 at the line. Lead back to 5, 49-44. Doyle goes 2 for 2 at the line. 2 points in the game for the point guard. 50-44, lead back to 6. Avazoglu to the near side. Switches hands from the left to the right, too strong off the back iron. Rebounded by Gashler. Gashler has shown an ability to go coast to coast with her dribbling. Defense now pressing out to her. Tavares fighting Walsh off the cut. Left-hand layup is good. Kate Walsh now with 18 points for Westwood. Lead back to 8. 4-0 run here by the Cardinals. 52-44. Pull-up jumper. It's good! A three-pointer for Janelle Lewis. Second made 3 of the game for Lewis. She's got a game-high 21. Trying desperately to keep Fort Lee within striking distance. Lead is 5, 52-47. What great on-ball defense there by Jones. Walsh with a crossover against Ava Zoglu. Once again, undenied. 20 points now for Walsh. Great offense from both these star players. Here's the three ball for Fort Lee, no good. Jones will track it down. Jones on the baseline. Gets that one. Ricocheted off the foot of a defender. Tie up as both teams getting dirty on the hardwood. And the possession will go over to Westwood. Janelle Lewis, Kate Walsh trading big buckets back and forth here in the fourth quarter. 7-point lead for Westwood, 54-47. As we approach 3.5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Eichler thought about the three. Instead, takes it down, takes the dribble, pass to the defense, and lays it in. Eichler's first basket since the first quarter. She's got 4. Lead is now 9, 56-47 for Westwood. Mid-range jumper, left short to the near side. Doyle with the rebound. Gashler pulls up from around 17 feet out. Hands it over. Now to Tavares. Eichler, bounce pass to a cutting Walsh across the middle. Walsh no good, but yet again, another second opportunity on this possession. Again, Eichler stepping in to try to wrestle back possession. And it's going to be a reach-in foul against Hausman. And Fort Lee, their Achilles heel, has been rebounding all game long. And that's still the story here late in the fourth quarter. That'll send Eichler to the line, shooting a 1-1 with a 19 foul against Fort Lee. Eichler left it short. Lewis with a rebound. Lewis, coast to coast, lays it in. Janelle Lewis, 23 points in the game. A career best here at Fort Lee. Lewis tries to steal that one away. That's poked away, last touch off of number 2 in white. So it's going to still be possession here with Westwood. 56-49, the lead for Westwood. 2:35 left to go in regulation. Fort Lee needs turnovers, needs to get the ball back to their offense as soon as possible. Next foul will mean 2 shots the rest of the way for Westwood in this game. They inbound it into Doyle. Doyle getting hounded from behind by Jones. Ball is left loose. They get it back to Doyle. Doyle just gets it past the timeline over to Walsh. Westwood trying to milk as much time off the clock as possible here in this offense possession. Leading by 7. Olivia Kim into the game now. For Fort Lee, here's a shot from distance, and that's a clutch three-pointer. No, they're going to stay up 2. Foot on the line there by Erin Gashler. She's got 14. 58-49, lead is 9 with under 2 minutes now left to go. Lewis straightaway 3, air ball, trying to chase after it was Kim, couldn't get to it in time. Now possession back over to Westwood, 1:53 remaining in regulation. Westwood has not lost to Fort Lee since losing here January 26, 2012. And the Cardinal out of control that time. Kate Walsh gets called for the offensive foul. That'll give the possession right back to Fort Lee with 1:48 left to go here in the fourth quarter. 16 foul against Westwood, so that means that any ensuing foul will send Fort Lee to the foul line for the remainder of this game. Layla Jones, again, tries to cut a double team. She's been struggling, turning it over in the second half. Tavares in the open floor, jump stop, left it short. Good contention there. Inside and a loose ball, jump ball given over now to Fort Lee. Outstanding defense there by Janelle Lewis. She anticipated that Tavares was going to try to jump stop and pull up for a short-range jumper. She contended with that shot and then eventually drew the jump ball situation. There's Lewis from distance, knocks down another 3. Kelly Lane calls for the timeout. Janelle Lewis, the senior, now with 26 points on the game. It's a 6-point lead for Westwood, 58-52 with 1:26 remaining in regulation. Janelle Lewis is doing everything humanly possible to try to keep Fort Lee in this game. The question is, can Fort Lee get enough stops here on this defensive side of the floor to keep hope alive on the offensive side? Janelle Lewis had 9 points at the break. She has exploded here in the second half, scoring 17 of her 26 points after halftime. Westwood really has been in control since the start of the third quarter. It was tied up at 30-30 at halftime. The lead has been as many as 9 in this second half for Westwood. That last long-range three by Lewis has made this a 6-point lead. Tavares was able to cross the midcourt stripe. Fort Lee was loading up, and Westwood went with the long touchdown pass. They found Tavares behind the last defender. So Westwood's going to run some clock now. 1:10 and counting left to go. Again, any foul by Fort Lee will send Westwood to the line to shoot 2. Lewis deflects it away. Here's Jones in the open floor. Jones weaving her way to the rim, left the shot short on the left side. Under a minute left to go, Fort Lee's got a foul. They throw it down the floor to Tavares for the easy layup on the left side, and that might be the finishing blow in this game. 60-52, 8-point lead for Westwood. Coming up in the final 40 seconds of the game, Lewis scoots up and under. She's got 28. 35 seconds left to go. Westwood inbounds it to Doyle. Doyle getting pressured. Lewis reluctant to foul. Westwood taking a little time here, looking for a 10-second call. No call comes. And now the foul being administered against Kate Walsh. She gets hacked, stopping the clock with 21.3 seconds left. 60-54, the lead for Westwood. And the Cardinals can ice this one at the foul line with 21 seconds remaining in the game. A valiant effort here by the Bridgemen. As Westwood does leave the door open momentarily. Kate Walsh with a game-high 20 points for Westwood. Walsh goes 1 of 2 at the line. 4 of 5 at the charity stripe in this game. 21 points for number 25. Lewis another 3. This time it's short. Rebounded by Ava Zoglu inside. She'll kiss it in off the glass and in. Ava Zoglu with all 4 of her points coming here in the fourth quarter. They'll stop the clock with 10.5 remaining, 61-56, the lead for Westwood. Again, Westwood after this game will head back home and will take on their 3rd straight Big North American Division opponent to start off this new 2022-23 campaign as they'll welcome in the Cliffside Park Red Raiders on December 20th before hitting the road to take on Lakeland on December 22nd. Fort Lee will next be in action on the road, their first road game of the season. They'll travel to Mahwah on December 20th before coming back home to host Bloomfield in a 4 p.m. start time on December 22nd. Fort Lee then will be participating in a holiday tournament at Rutherford High School over the course of December 27th through the 30th. So that's the road ahead upcoming for Fort Lee and Westwood. So 10.5 seconds remaining in the game. Westwood trying to break the full court pressure. They'll drop it in to Walsh. Walsh will cross midcourt. Will just dribble it out here. 6 seconds left to go. Now a reach-in foul against Fort Lee with 4.8 seconds. And Kate Walsh will try to pad her stats here with this game no longer really in doubt. 61-56 Westwood about to go to 2-0 to start their season. Walsh misses on the foul shot. She's 4 of 6 at the line here tonight. 21 points in this game for Kate Walsh. Second foul shot is good. Walsh with 22 in the game. Lewis, last possession of the game. Lewis curls inside. And they're going to wave off the basket as that was a traveling call against Janelle Lewis. So Lewis will stay with 28 points in the game. And the final score is going to be Westwood 62 and Fort Lee 56. Again, a valiant effort for Fort Lee, but Westwood took control in that third quarter, never relinquished the lead. They'll go to 2-0 on the season. Fort Lee will fall to 0-2. A reminder, fans, that you could join us for our next televised broadcast of Fort Lee girls basketball game on December 22nd, as Fort Lee will be playing host to the Bengals of Bloomfield High School. Tip-off scheduled for 4 p.m. here at East Gymnasium. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to support these great student athletes from both fine schools. Again, Westwood victorious 62-56 over Fort Lee. For Renee Matisich and Dimitri Nanis, I'm Dan Long saying so long here from East Gym. We'll see you next time on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel.